Alright, did you know 1 in 10 Americans over the age of 12 years old have an alcohol use disorder? Also, children from the age of 12 to 17 suffer from taking hallucinogenics daily. This can range from LSD to ecstasy. 40% of high schoolers alone test or experiment with marijuana before. This is a little over 40 people in our grade. The Responsible Gambling Control website states to us that 18 to 24-year-olds are the most prone to addiction. This is because in the next stage of our life, in college, we're not going to have parents around us. We're not going to have the control that we have now, and we are the most prone to any type of addiction. But people need to understand that addiction is not just substances and alcohol. It can be gambling as well. I just want to assure you that with these two verses, that we are not always going to be at our lowest lows. So in 1 Corinthians 10:13, it tells us no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, he will also provide a way of escape so you may be able to endure it. In James 1:2-4, it tells us, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so you may be mature and not incomplete and not lacking anything. I want to start out with these just to show that at our lowest lows, we will persevere and God will put us back up. And when you're down at addiction, there's always hope. There's always joy, and he'll bring it to you. So before I break down my main point about gambling, I want to talk about the brain and anatomy of addiction. I understand this part can be quite boring, but I just want to do it simple and easy so that y'all understand, if you don't know the brain already. So the prefrontal, all of this is in the nucleus accumbens. This is the process where you get a pleasure and reward system in the brain. This is your prefrontal cortex, and these are the three segments of the nucleus accumbens. The prefrontal cortex is where it all starts. This is the process. This is where addiction starts with the release of a glutamate. A glutamate is the neurotransmitter that starts addiction. This release goes into the basal ganglia, which then also is the intoxication stage. This is where it all comes together, and the basal ganglia is also producing a dopamine, which a dopamine is what the certain type of thing you get from the drug. So all these combine and go to your extended amygdala. So in your extended amygdala, both of these two things are working together. They're breaking down over and over, and they're ending up breaking down your brain cells. So it's hurting you very bad. So you're going through this withdrawal phase that is putting stress onto your body. So this stress points you all the way back to the start, and it's making you go through the addiction again. And it's just breaking down your brain over and over again, and it's the process of addiction. I wanted to show you this, that not only is this happening and your brain is going down and breaking down, also the side effect of what you're doing, with gambling, it's adrenaline. With drugs, it could be being high, being buzzed, being whatever from alcohol, being drunk. All of this is on top of your brain already breaking down. So addiction, and it just shows that your brain is so amazing that God has made us for us, that like your brain can hold 13.3 years of television recordings. It can hold 4.7 billion books in just your brain. And you're breaking this down by doing an addiction. So then I want to talk about how addiction is it's always bad, but there's certain limits, and you got to find your limits in yourself. So scientists came up with the 4 C's that have addiction. So first I want to talk about is compulsion. Compulsion is the urge to do something no matter what. No matter the negatives, no matter how broke you are, you're going to keep gambling. No matter how broke you are, you're going to keep buying heroin, you're going to keep buying cocaine, you're going to keep buying all this because you don't care about the negatives. Next is the craving. Craving, there's 2 parts, physical and psychological. The physical part of craving is you actually needing to feel a certain thing. You need to feel the lighting of a spoon for heroin. I think that's heroin. You need to figure out the lighting of a match for a cigarette. You need to feel everything you can. You need to feel pouring a beer if you have the alcohol use disorder. You need to feel that. That's the physical part of craving. The next part is psychological, which is you actually wanting to feel what that drug is going to do to you, what the gambling, what the adrenaline is going to produce you to, what everything is going to go boost you up. Next, the 3rd C is consequences, or that you don't care about. You don't care about who it's hurting. You don't care about hurting your schoolwork, family, friends. You don't care about any of that because all you care about is this certain addiction. Finally, it's the control or the lack of control because you're out of control with whatever you need and you need it no matter what. You're done with control. Like you have no control. And if you have these 4 C's and we need to learn these, that you put them in every situation in life, that you're not putting stuff above. Like nothing in these 4 C's, if they're not in them, you're fine and you don't need to get to this point. So then my main topic is going to be about addiction. About gambling, the part of addiction that I want to talk about. I want to do this because how prone it is in my life. I see it in friends. I see it in family members. I've seen it all around me. And people in my econ class will talk about, what prize picks are we going to do today? Like they're going to bet together and it's like right in front of me. And I'm like, y'all know what my seminar is about. But I've seen this in people and I've seen this in myself. So last football season, and during NFL, I thought I knew football a little bit. So then I decided to I saw an ad, showed me there's $40. I put $40 in, they'll give me $40 back. So I get $80 to bet with. Lost it in about 2 weeks. Then I'm like thinking to myself, I need to get back up. So now I lose $40. But I'm glad I had the control to stop. I'm just glad that I did. And I have a friend of mine who didn't. So I got to sit down with him and have a really big talk, and he told me a few things he experienced. He said gambling was an experience it was a feeling he never experienced before. It was an adrenaline rush. He said it was the easiest way to make money. You're not working for it, you're just sitting on your couch watching sports. He thought this the same way I did, but I had the control in my life as my family was still around me, and as him, he was in college. He was all over surrounded by friends who were gambling with him, and he was not in a structured home. He literally is in college, and he can make his own decisions for him, and that's what made him not stop. And so he also said he was glad that he learned it at a young age, how bad gambling can hurt you, because not only did it hurt him, but it hurted everything around him. It hurted his schoolwork. He had to drop out of classes. It hurted his family, as he had to call home and tell his dad and mom that he's down thousands of dollars. He had to tell everyone, and it affected everyone around him. And my question to him was, where did you see gambling first in sports? And he told me that the first time he saw it was a commercial. I looked at him straight in the face. I said, if there's a commercial about this, are they making money? Yes. The simple answer is yes. If there's commercials, billboards, and ads about gambling, about any gambling website, about a casino, they're making money because they have to pay for this. So we were at the Braves Stadium the other day, and I because I'm doing this, I've been noticing gambling signs everywhere. So underneath in left center, underneath the big screen, there it shows you the Powerball. It shows you how many billions of dollars you can win. It shows you everything. And so it shows you all the billions of dollars you can win, and it doesn't show the fine print. And Instagram, you look at the Masters, for example, it showed you the odds of everything, plus whatever. It showed that Tiger one year was minus something, so he was going to win, they thought, no matter what, and he didn't. So that is just in your mind, that Instagram shows you these odds so that you start betting. Also, lastly, with commercials, like they're everywhere. I think I see 3 commercials, each commercial break, about gambling whenever I watch a sports event. There's 3 commercials, each commercial break telling you to gamble because they want you to do this, because they're linked up with those things and they're getting paid to show that commercial because they're also making money. They're making money in the end. Gambling, they're going to make money no matter what. And so my prevention is, I think, to get rid of everything. To get rid of all the ads, all the commercials, because you don't see commercials anymore about cigarettes, do you? You don't see commercials about doing drugs. You don't see commercials about doing any of that. All you see now is prevention. And that's what I think gambling should be. There should be no more ads or anything, because it's honestly a growing addiction that's going to hurt people in the end. And it's going to be in the next few years, just like cigarette commercials are now. With that one cigarette commercial, it's showing how bad people like with holes in their throats. Like gambling, it needs to show how broke people are getting because of this addiction. So I understand that getting rid of it as a whole is not good, because it is good, but it's not going to happen. Because people are making money and they're having these jobs and they're making money while doing these jobs because they're so good at their job people are losing money and they're winning, and people need to understand that. So as an adult, when I have kids, I'm going to teach them games like playing cards, Monopoly, and lottery tickets. I'm going to show them the fine print on the back of a lottery ticket to show you the odds of winning it. I'm going to show you everyone shows you the good in gambling. It shows you how much money you can win, because if you look at any of these, it doesn't show you the odds of it. The Powerball, when it shows you the money outside of a gas station, it shows you how amazing it is to win billions of dollars, but it doesn't show you the odds of what it actually is. So I want to teach my kids how playing cards and Monopoly is not a winnable option all the time, and to hopefully get through their brain that gambling is not winnable. So I just want to leave you with this. Whenever you hear anyone talk about gambling in the future, even if you were thinking about doing it, think about where you saw it first. Was it an ad? Was it a commercial? Was it a billboard? Anything. Just think about all of that, and then think about how do they have that if they're giving money away for people winning sports bets. When people in a casino, if you see casinos, just think about, the last thing I want to say is think about why Vegas is Vegas. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Ms. Evans, I think you're our only guest. You got anything for Guy?
You did a great job.
Thank you.
I was a little surprised by your topic. I didn't know what your topic was coming in, so I'm a little surprised by your topic, but proud of you for choosing something that is close to home. I don't really think I have any questions right now. You covered the reason why you chose the topic, so that's usually my question. I want to know why you have an interest in it, but thank you for enlightening us today.
All right. First of all, good job. Really good. Like, I can tell. I would much rather hear some of this is all like meta stuff. Like, this is all just presentation type stuff. I would much rather hear I'm not saying you're not polished. I would much rather hear a natural rate of speech, knowing that you have invested enough into this where you can talk, not off the cuff either, whatever. I'd much rather hear a much more natural rate of speech than someone having memorized something that they're not even having to think about it as they talk. You know what I mean? And that was a really good example of that, where you had your notes, like you obviously prepared, but at the same time, it wasn't so rehearsed that it didn't mean anything to us. So yeah, that was really, really well done. So now to the topic. I think it's really, I like how you did which we talked about this early on, I like how you discussed addiction in general, but then took one particular kind of addiction that maybe, our minds don't necessarily go to. That was super practical. The 4 C's, I like that. That was nice and tangible, like something to look out for. That was a question in another one of these addiction. I got a lot of addiction presentations this year. And one of the questions came up was like, it was almost like addictions are just really bad habits. So what's the difference between a bad habit and addictions? And so the 4 C's take care of that. Okay, so that's another plus. All right, so here I got several questions, so y'all are gonna have to bear with me for a minute. First of all, it seems like, can you talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned college is a time where statistically people are most susceptible to it, because, family, we're away from our family, right? And then you mentioned something about friends, having friends that influence you one way or another. The word that I keep thinking of is accountability. Can you talk to me about accountability to people in regards to addictions? Maybe specifically gambling, but just like, how important is accountability in handling all these addictions?
I think accountability is huge with this, just because you gotta not only hold yourself that realizes that you have an addiction in the first place, but you gotta hold people around you accountable that so they don't fall into it as well. So whenever I started it, because the friend who went down in the hole started it, and so I'm just glad I realized I had the control, and I try to hold him accountable now. And I'm like, you're not doing it again, right? And I'm not there for him at college or wherever he is at right now. But I'm trying to hold him accountable still, checking on him, make sure he's good.
Right. Yeah, I know we talked about it just a few weeks weeks ago, but the thing that'll make or break the next year or two for every single one of you is the group of people you surround yourself by. That is going to determine your growth or your not growth. All right. I want to ask you about. Okay, so. All right, talk to me about. Never mind. Don't. All right, I'll go for it. I'm hesitant. All right, here's why I'm hesitating. I just got an email this morning from Mrs. Bowers about a stock market game. Right? I used to teach economics, and I would run the stock market game with my students. And I got an email once from one of my students' parents saying my child will not be participating in your stock market game because investing in the stock market, you may as well be gambling. And I'm trying to teach my child not to gamble, so my student will not be participating in your gambling game. And it was about that. It was about that mean. And so I took it on myself to try to think: am I teaching my students to gamble? Talk to me about that. What's the difference between something like investing in the stock market and gambling?
I think they kind of correlate with each other, which that parent, I think they need to let their kid do it, let their kid do the stock market game to show them that, what if they win it? That would suck. That would suck for my whole thing. But but the thing is, they can also look down and look who's at the bottom and see how much they're down. So I say, because you're not actually using your own money, that you need to show your kids that gambling isn't winnable, and that parent needs to let their kid do it, let their kid play in the stock market game, because I think they go hand in hand, gambling and like the stock market, I guess. Because I'm not really 100% on the stock market. That's what I told someone after class, econ yesterday, and so I think they work hand in hand, and I think people like this game will be good for all of us. To like, if you win it, like look at the bottom, see how much they're down. And see what you did right and they did wrong.
So, I think it's worth discussing since we're on the topic. I just got something in my eye. Ow! Wow, that burns. I don't know where to put mine. I'm sorry, that was distracting. Focus. I think there's a significant difference, and I think it's worth discussing since it's up in our in conversation, right? I think there are things that relate gambling to investing in the stock market, specifically risk. There's a risk involved. You put money on the stock market, there's a risk involved. You might lose it all, and that's one of the things that y'all are going to get a really big dose of realism, where it's like, I played with my students 2008 through 2015-ish, a little further than that, but that was during the recession, and so. I think there was one year where the first place still lost money. The person who won the game still lost. Everybody lost money. And most years only fewer than the top 5 actually got any money by the end of it. We would play for months. People would invest all of their money in the stock market and they would go for broke, and very few people actually made money. So lessons are learned where it's like, man, if you're going to invest in the stock market, you got to be really careful. But I don't think that risk is what makes gambling gambling. Otherwise, buying a house is a gamble. I wouldn't say buying a house is gambling. Buying a house is risky, especially in today's market, but buying a house is risky, but risk is not what makes gambling gambling. What Guy said earlier, I don't know if you recognize how much wisdom is in this, but what Guy said earlier, I wrote it down. Think about what makes Vegas Vegas. The reason why Las Vegas looks so opulent and these buildings are so incredible is because they are making bank off of people playing a game, and it's a numbers game. See, when you invest money in a stock market, like real life, like when you invest money in a stock market, it's money going to a business, and it takes money to make money, so the more money these businesses get, the more likely they are to succeed. That's what makes it an investment. Yes, there's risk involved. Stock markets have crashed. But when you give money to somebody who's really good at business, which I'm presuming is why you are giving them money to begin with, when you give money to a business that's really good at that business, it makes it more likely that they're going to succeed. So the more money you give them, the greater your odds are, the greater the chances are that you're actually going to make money. Buying a house is a risk, but the more money you put into the house, the more you invest into the house, the more likely you are to get a profit from that house when you go to sell it. Does that make sense? Gambling is a numbers game that's actually bent on you losing. The whole game works, one person wins only if thousands of others have lost. If everybody wins, then there's no gamble. There's no risk. You look at, like those of y'all know how these number games work in gambling. When Tiger Woods is about to win the Masters or whatever, right? And he actually does win the Masters. The odds of him winning are very, very high, and so nobody makes a ton of money off of that because everybody just kind of knew it was a sure thing, quote unquote, right? So nobody makes a ton of money off of that. Why does nobody make a ton of money? Because people only win a bunch of money when everybody else loses. The Powerball that he's talking about, you know why the Powerball set it however many, is it billion yet?
I think so. I think it's in the billions.
So the Powerball is this lottery in Atlanta that just keeps building and building and building and building and building, and then somebody jackpots it and takes it back down. Well, the reason why it's up in the billions right now, think about how many people have bought lottery tickets and won nothing for that Powerball to have gotten up to the billions. It's a numbers game that only works if a bunch of people lose. It's what we call the gambler's fallacy. That's the difference between investing and gambling. Investing it's a risk, but it's a risk that the more money you put in, the more likely you are to succeed. Gambling, by definition, the more money you put in, the less likely you are to succeed. All of that to say, this gambler's fallacy is a real thing. Like it's a feeling that you get. What Guy, tell us the story again? Let me recite the story where you lost that. You put in 40. You had 80 to play with. You lost all 80, and immediately, what was the feeling that you had upon losing that money?
You gotta get the get back.
Gotta get it back. Gotta get it back. And so, what were you tempted to do?
Put more money in.
Put more money. This is the addiction, right? I think. Look, one of the best things that can happen to you I like what the little quote that you had in there. It's just the best thing ever to learn this lesson when you're young. It's best to learn this lesson when it's $40 on the line and not your mortgage on the line. Can you tell I know some folks that are dealing with this kind of a thing? Yeah? All right. Classmates, y'all got any questions or feedback for Guy? Go for it.
So, like there's rehab facilities for alcohol, drug abuse. Is there something that people who suffer from gambling addiction that acts the same as rehab? And if there isn't, what could that look like?
That's a great question, man. I'm not 100% if there is like a rehab facility for gambling, but what I would think that would look like, it's kind of like the same way that they work, but hold on, let me think. I would, gosh, Rango, come on. I would think they would work kind of the same, but like I don't know what happens in like alcohol or drug rehab center. Like I don't know what all they do, and I don't know like if they show them the bad parts of what those things, like what alcohol and drugs can do to you. But that's what I would think about with gambling. Show them the odds, show them the props to win it all, show them like what they have to do to make actual money out of that.
And maybe that's the nature of the beast too. Like these rehab facilities, like one of the first things they'll do is detox. Like what does detox look like for gambling? You know what I mean? Like paying your debts off. Like how does that work? So like maybe that's the nature of the beast, that this is one of those things that's not as easily rehabbed as substance abuse. Somebody else?
Earlier you talked about dopamine and how it's like the brain's reward system. So when you take or do a drug, your brain receives a huge amount of dopamine, which causes the individual to want to do it over and over again. So gambling, although individuals are not always winning, why do you think they can't stop? They're putting so much into it, they're not getting anything out of it. And then you talked about control. So, for example, like if you're going in and you're not winning anything, and you're lacking control enough to stop, how could you gain that control?
Say the question again. Like louder.
Earlier you talked about dopamine and how it's the brain's reward system. When taking a drug, your brain receives a huge amount of dopamine, which causes you want to do it over and over again. So gambling, although individuals are not always winning, why do you think they can't stop? They're putting so much into it, not getting anything out of it. And then earlier you talked about control part. If they lack control, how can they gain that control?
So how can you? So
So I'm hearing two questions.
yeah, I'm hearing like three.
So one is like if they're not winning anything, if they're not winning anything, then why do
Like
they
earlier
keep
you
coming
said
back?
you want to, people keep playing because they want to win it back.
Yeah.
So if you're lacking control there and you keep playing, how could you gain control you're lacking?
Oh, how you can gain control back and stop betting?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it from me, for instance, like when I was, because I lost control for a little bit when I put money back in. And for when I learned to stop, it's just like to realize I'm not going to win in the end. And the odds are against me. And so to gain that control, it's really hard to do. That's why you don't want to get into one of the 4C categories in the first place. And that's why I wanted to show that. Is that you don't want to get in one of those categories in the first place. So control being one of them, you don't want to get there in the first place, and to gain back control, that's hard to do, and just don't get there in the first place is what I would say.
I think that's why the accountability thing is so strong too. Because when you're out of control, you need external help. Like when you have internal control, you're going to need that external control. Also, another thing that's interesting about it, like why do people keep playing if they're not winning anything? Man, just this weekend, I was gone for a couple days. We went to this wedding, and driving back, we stopped by QT, and there was some old guy. Me and my son went into the bathroom, used the restroom, came back out. The old guy, when we went in, this guy was at the little lottery thing. There's like a vending machine, for crying out loud. It's like buying snacks, except it's a lottery ticket. So he's like getting lottery tickets out of this little vending machine. So I'm sorry, I went in myself, came back out, he was still there. Got my son, we got snacks, went to use the restroom. It was one of those things where, oh, now you gotta go. So like we went back in, dude was still there. We were only there for like 10, 15 minutes, but how long does it take you to get a snack out of the vending machine? No, this dude was there. And one time I walked by, I remember noticeably he was upset, he was shaking his head, he was grouchy or whatever. It's kind of what got my attention to begin with. The second or third time I walked by, he was smiling, he was laughing, he was happy. These systems are built to let you win just a tad bit more. That's how addiction works, to give you just a little bit of a taste. You talk about drug dealers. They know how to manage their addicts to where they give them just enough of a taste to keep them coming back for more. So you go get a lottery ticket that costs you $1. Hey, I just won $20. Awesome. That's just enough to keep you coming back for more. And so the system knows, there are statisticians that these companies will hire to say, how much money, what's the bare minimum of money that we need to give away to keep people buying tickets? I'm telling you, the whole thing is rigged. The whole thing is bent against you not making money. So the gambler's fallacy is, the more I put in, the more likely it is I'm going to make money. Steven?
I know, like with like cigarette companies and stuff, there's like active legislation banning them from like doing promotional stuff that depicts cigarettes in a positive light. But with gambling, I know that in gambling, even though it's as big as a problem, if not more prevalent now than smoking a cigarette is, more states are like legalizing it. Like, I don't know for specifics on it, but I've like heard recently that more states and like more municipalities are legalizing gambling while it's becoming a more and more prevalent issue. How come the same thing that happened for cigarette companies is not happening for gambling companies?
Thinking about back in the day, like how long did it take cigarettes company to have that? Like, it took that long, and if states are just legalizing it and it's growing, it's because the states are legalizing it. And because they're legalizing the gambling, that's why it keeps growing, and eventually, in my opinion, it's going to happen the same way cigarettes did. people are gonna have commercials about not gambling.
Yeah, do you think it's like part of it is because they make so much money that they're able to convince like cities to legalize it because it'll bring a whole lot of wealth, and then greed plays like a factor in that.
I mean, I'm sure. I feel like everything has a price tag. If you want to pay someone to legalize it in your state, like I bet you could, but.
So let me jump in there real quick. So like, this is something that even if you never have a problem with gambling, this is why this should matter to you. Because everywhere you go, there's going to be politicians trying to bring as much money into their area as they possibly can. You always have to follow the money, right? I'll tell you why Georgia will never, just having grown up in Georgia, all that happened when I was a kid. They got, the lottery was made legal and people started paying money and all this stuff into the lottery. And the state of Georgia started realizing, oh shoot, we could fund education by way of the lottery. I guarantee you Georgia will never get rid of their lottery, at least not anytime soon, because University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Emory University, like all of these universities that either get subsidized, either however much, a lot of that money is going, and even all the way down to public education in Georgia, a lot of that gets bankrolled by this massive moneymaker of a lottery. Well, I hate to say it, like you're not gonna de-incentivize politicians to take money out of their budget. That's one of the reasons why it was so tough to do with cigarettes. And by the way, yeah, we're not allowed to advertise cigarettes anymore, but it's not like cigarettes have gone away because there's just so much money involved in it. But y'all are in economics. Y'all know about supply and demand. The reason why people supply things is because so many people demand it. It's one of the most important things you can learn in economics. Demand comes before supply. Are y'all aware of this? People don't just supply random stuff that nobody wants. If people demand it, people will supply it. And they're gonna keep supplying it until people stop demanding it. So what's the solution? Waiting for a politician to get their act together? No. Waking up a generation of people who just don't demand this stuff. They're not gonna pay for it anymore. They're not gonna buy it. I saw a bunch of hands back there. I don't know who was first. Fight over it. Mills, John, y'all go, let me show you.
As online gambling becomes more accessible even for underage people, what steps do you think should be taken to avoid more people falling into the trap? And you talked about the billboards and advertising. How do you think people should resist this?
How reduce billboards and advertising?
No, how should people resist that urge and that temptation?
Well, like I said, I feel like the advertising should go away for it, but also I know there's so many ways you can get around, like putting in a ID to do prize picks or whatever, because I did the same thing. I put Colby's ID in so that I could do betting. Sorry, Colby, and it's on video. But I put, that's how I got into the thing, because I was 17 at the time. And so, more restrictions. I think the age should be boosted. I understand I said to learn young through these games, not through actually doing it, not actually losing your money. If you can't just get rid of it as a whole, I think you've got to boost the age, just like they did with alcohol and everything.
That's kind of my question. What do you think the age should be? Like, what do you think it should be? Wait, to go with that, do you think it should be? Do you think it should be after 24? Since you said that in that age span, you say that we're most
Immature still. So yeah, I agree with, that's how I was about to say 25. Just if I have to put an age on it, I'm gonna say 25. You're out of college, you're making your own money at this time. Most people are not at a family yet because you don't have kids yet, so you're doing this to yourself right now. So if I had to put an age on it, I'd say 25.
That's interesting. So it's not even really about the brain development thing as much as it is about, you think it's more about the relationships that you have by 25 is more at stake. Is that what you're saying?
Just the people you're around when you're 18 to 24, and also the immaturity of your brain still.
Yeah. Y'all don't typically like getting into the age conversation because brains keep developing for a while. The science is interesting there. Coach Jane?
How do you think things like fantasy football and March Madness target young college kids or even high school guys and kind of like feed the addiction to gambling, like put $20 in and like, I feel like everybody just like makes a racket or something, but once you put money in, like, do you think that plays a part in why like that specific age group is targeted so much?
Yeah, definitely. That's why. Because I don't know one guy really here that doesn't do fantasy football. Just because how exciting it is to have a team and stuff. Why can't it be exciting without putting money in? Why can't it be exciting? Like me and my friends, for the past like 5 years, we just don't do money at all. And everyone has bragging rights for a year, or the person has a punishment. So just don't let life be exciting without money always involved.
That's a really practical, like the accountability thing that keeps coming up. Like I don't know, these guys are laughing back here too much. Makes me think they're not taking this serious. That's a really good practical way of going about doing it. Is like the accountability component of it. It's like yeah, we're not gonna throw money into it. Here's while we're just talking about it, I wonder how much of this gambling thing is. So the only time I've ever put money I've only put money into fantasy football once. I've only put money into March Madness once, and I went about it with the assumption this is $20 that I'm never going to see again. So I'm basically paying $20 to. It's like you pay $80 to go watch a game with your friends. I'm paying $20 to play this game with my friends. Okay, fine. And I go into it with the assumption I'm not getting this money back. How much of a difference is the mentality when you go into it? When you don't look at it as a fee to play the game, you look at it as a way to make money, as a means of making money.
That's a lot different. Just because the fee to pay the game, you know you're gonna lose.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you win, you win. Like
And
hooray,
it's
like
like
good.
oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, exactly. But if you are think about it for the odds of Tiger winning. It was in the negatives 1 year. That means they already know you think he's gonna win. If you're a bettor right there, how much money are you gonna put on that? Because the more money you put on such a small bet, the more you win. For example, so if you put $1 million, you're gonna win like 500,000 on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put $10, you're gonna win maybe like 30 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just how much money you'll actually put in it.
Right. All right. Anything else?
No, John.
You talked about the age thing. You said 25, and then I didn't really catch it, but you're talking about. I was thinking like you said, learn it at a younger age, but if you push the age back to 25, when you have more to lose, because you're like in your career.
Yes, but I feel most. One, you're more mature. Two, once you're older, you have your own money. You're gonna be more responsible with your own money than other people's money. That's just what I was thinking with the age of 25.
Yeah, and I would think like that's one of the problems with getting addicted in high school is that there's not much to lose. $40. Him losing $40 is him losing $40. Me losing $40 is taking $40 away from my family. That's the way I view it because I don't. Sorry, dad life. I don't have money. My family does. Because every dime I make is for them, right? So at 25, it's like it's not just going to be him losing his allowance. It's going to be him losing rent. You know, so I like the logic there. Is all I'm saying.
In South Carolina, sports gambling is illegal by law. You know, besides fantasy gambling, do you know why prize picks and underdogs are considered like fantasy gambling?
It's because of the sports aspect of it.
No,
What do you mean fantasy? What do you mean fantasy?
Because that's what it's called. It's called like direct fantasy sports gambling. That's legal, but like all other, like in South Carolina by law, gambling's still illegal for sports or anything. But for some reason, these prize picks and underdogs are still legal. Do you know what the reason behind that?
Because there's money involved in it. They can make money from it.
So, like you said, you used mean like the younger kids using their older friends or even parents' IDs? Like, can there be a verification process to that, do you think?
Will you say that again? No, so why, like, there should be more
There should
regular.
be more verification to minors who try to vet using their older friends or parents' IDs?
Easy answer, yes. Like, there should be, but what? Like, that's still a question I have. Like, what can you do?